would be a more apropos name would be 6 or 7, as in minutes, because as it turns out, a lot of the tracks on their album were about 6 or 7 minutes long. In 1990s, in 19. Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another Friday episode of the Audiophiles. It's Andy, it's John, and it's time to devote an episode to one of y'all and a song that you offered up to us. In this case, it was a song offered up by Will Hildebrand. What's up, Will? How you doing out there? Thanks for being a friend of the show, and thank you for offering up this track on our Plan B episode. It is a band called 6 by 7 and a track called European Me. Obviously, me and 6 by 7 go way back, so I'm super from. No, I'm not. I don't know the song at all, but neither does John. So, as luck would have it, it turns out John is going to be the one to go off and give this thing a listen, though I have listened to it and done my homework. And when John comes back, I'm going to tell him all the interesting, juicy bits that I came across while researching these guys. But, John, you know past experience listening to any of these guys' oeuvre, huh?
No, 6 by 7, not heard of them. It could be the dimensions of my cell, or it could be the magic number, 42.
I guess 6 times 7. I gotcha. Clever. Regular
If man
mathematician.
is 5, then God is 6. Sorry, the devil is 6, then the God is 7, as Black Francis would say.
Just what I was thinking. So go off, give this thing a listen, and come back and let Will, myself, and anybody else who's tuned into this episode know your thoughts.
Ja, war mein Gruppenführer. Interesting. This sort of sound at the beginning, it almost sounds like the sort of the less spooky part of Silent Hill, like a siren, bring out your dead or something. It sounds a bit sort of slightly broken and apologetic. Yeah, interesting. Just my take. Okay, so you got these two different guitars. This one sort of, it sounds like an old woman pushing a shopping trolley full of bottles or cans that she's collected in this channel, and this is a bit more sort of buzzy and sort of vinegary sort of guitar sound in this one, and then you've got this sort of no man's land in the middle. This bit of scorched dirt where you've got the rhythm section keeping it going. Interesting.
Feel like
Okay, it's good to be someone. Um, Anyone else getting sort of Radiohead vibes here? Yeah, the vocals, it may be multi-track, but it's sounding, there's definitely different registers in there. There's a higher and lower one. Um, it's weird because they kind of have that, they have that sort of chorus um, of people singing, but they're more like chroniclers rather than they have no authority. They're just saying what, there's no oomph to that line. It's good to be someone. It's sung almost like it's, apologetic again. Interesting.
Change your life today. Change your world as well.
Interesting lyrics. I'm loving these two guitars. When they're just going, there's one's and the two of them combined is almost trance-like. And then that chorus there, and I guess it was a chorus. And you had this lovely rising and there's some oomph to the sort of well, I say oomph. There's something to the vocals there, the first syllable of European me. And it's kind of rising to match the guitar in this here, which is going full batshit, almost like a theremin. It's scrawling and scratching. Yeah, and then the second line coming in is good to be someone. I think it was. That's the lower register, and it sounds just because of the contrast really intimate, like someone's muttering it to you or whispering it to you over the your shoulder, almost into your ear. Um, Really interesting. I haven't got a bloody clue what it all means, but it sounds good. I don't know. Something to do with identity, perhaps. It said about change your life today, change your world as well. On this European mean, it's good to be somebody. Yeah, something to do with identity. It was about searching for stuff. I don't know. But yeah, it sounds fantastic. There's something about friends, they hold me down, and they hold me, and this will put some emphasis on that. And to me, it sounded like ghosts complaining. It was there was something a bit pitiful about it. It wasn't really. Yeah, it was sort of a little bit whiny and a bit pitiful. It was just a really interesting sound. I this guitar. just get the groove going. Sounds very 90s. So the mad guitar in the left channel has been taken away, presumably by blokes in white coats with one of those big comedy nets. And we're getting back now. This, I think it sounds like horns. There's some slow, expansive notes coming through. Really interesting. Yeah. Yeah, awesome. That was no time at all. It's interesting that sort of on a final third. I have no idea the timings, apart from it's right at the beginning. But it had that same trancy quality. That track I gave to Andy recently, Bardo Pond, very different approaches, very different sounds, but the sort of effects is the same. I love when it just dropped out mad guitarist and it was just buzzing right guitarist in the rhythm section. It had a bit of that sort of early 90s feel to it. I was just listening to Breeder's first album, Pod, just yesterday. It had a bit of that sound to it. It was really, really nice. But yeah, the additions of the horns coming in was something else. And there's a lovely sort of bits of throaty sax in there, I'm sure. And the guitar came back in, and it sounded like the left guitar. It sounded like it had been tamed almost, and was going to behave and work in tandem with the horns, and then it just started to break out, and do its crazy shit. You know, kind of like Jim Carrey overacting. You just can't help it. Way it goes. Bless him. Uh, yeah, it was a bit like that. It was, or yeah, or something that's been tamed and then it can't be, it cannot deny it any longer, and away comes its true nature again. Yeah, there's a lovely sort of, cresting of the wave there, and then it just sort of taken again to shore by the groove, just taking us right through. This is wonderful. I really, really enjoyed this. It's definitely got a 90s feel to it. I don't know when this was, but yeah, really, really enjoyed it. Must find out a bit more about 6x7. Let's get back to Andy and find out.
All right, so you've returned from your cell. What did you think of this track, European Me by 6x7?
Yeah, very interesting. So the song starts with this kind of weary jangling from a guitar that its tone sounds like it's just still deciding whether to give up or not. It's a kind of like a bring out your dead siren from the less spooky half of Silent Hill.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
It was super
And it's
eerie the whole time. I was thinking that.
yeah, yeah. So it's joined by this quite firm beat, and it's quite nice. The sort of the drum beat itself is sort of almost syncopated. It does this sort of interesting rhythm. It's not straight 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we get this sort of buzzing, nagging counterpart guitar in the right channel. So the left channel continues with its noodling. Um, so you got the two of them there, and in between, and there's an earthy bass along with the drums that occupies this area of sparsely vegetated dirt between the two, sort of no man's land, and the rhythm section are keeping these two apart and going. The two guitars continue their course, locked together with their continuing motifs for most of the song. I think I said in the reaction that the left-hand one reminded me of a sort of bag lady with a shopping market collecting bottles or cans, just crazy meandering away, and the right hand one was this buzzy sort of had a touch of vinegar to it. Yeah, strange. But actually, when I was putting my notes together, I was put in mind of being cornered at a family function by two elderly aunts. In the right channel, we are regaled with tales of accomplishments and daring do in the worlds of accountancy and town planning. An update on the lives of seldom seen cousins serve to remind you of just how inadequate these rusted relatives view you. And then in the left channel, we receive a litany from this aunt of people who have died since we last gathered together and the small town intrigues that led them up to all hating each other. Um, It's a heady mix and it's slightly sort of disorientating and has something of this inevitable trudge to the motion of the track. Um, and I'm immediately enjoying it. Um, so we continue, enter the vocals around the 1 minute mark. And there's a kind of feathering of lines here as well. There's at least, I don't know, there's at least two voices. I don't know if it's two voices or if it's multi-track. There's definitely a higher and a lower register, and there could be some others in there as well. It has this nice sort of like shaky outline quality to it. You can't quite pin it down. They have a tone of a sort of chorus, but without any authority, like they're just chroniclers of what's going on. So that the words have no effect on the delivery at this point. Um, what they're singing, it could be anything. Um, I also get more than when the vocals start with the music as well, more than a hint of sort of early Radiohead,
Mhm.
sort of the Benz era, which if you know what I think about the Benz, is very high praise indeed. Um, Catch some lines. It's good to be someone. Change your life today. And it continues on, and then we get to which I think is the chorus, which is only like two lines, but there's this European me, which and then it's good to be someone, and we do get a bit of like, I'll call it life. I don't know what it is, effort or something. Anyway, and the first syllable of European, and it rises up to meet the scrawling of the left channel guitar. It's like a sonic picture of Mr. Messi. It's all scratchy lines and circles overlapping. And because of that, the contrast, and it's in the lower register, that it's good to be somebody that follows sounds really intimate, like it's almost muttered over your shoulder and right into your ear. I don't really have a clue what it means, what they're saying. I understand the meaning of the words. I mean the whole context. Um, I think it's perhaps something about searching for an identity. But we go back to the same proposition for the second verse. I am loving the joint effect of the two guitars seemingly going their separate ways, but sort of keeping it together. And the random madness of the left-hand channel guitar is just something wonderful. It really is. And I find that even though it's a different method, a different sound, a different approach, it has the same sort of trancy hold that like the Bardo Pond song that I gave you had. You know, it's just it has the same effect on me. It's kind of lulling me into a trance. We get some more interesting lines. I don't catch all of them, but we got the phrase "sanitize your mind and wallow in your pride and leave the past behind," which kind of sounds like a bit of an agenda here or a methodology to gain this. I presume the European me is the persona, perhaps. And we're not even halfway through the song yet. It says something about friends. Something about I think they hold me down, and then it says they hold me. And the second phrase there, the emphasis that is placed on those last three words, they hold me. It sounded like ghosts complaining. There's a little bit of like um, pitiful nature to it. I mean, it's a little bit whiny, but it's almost like you feel it's pitiful to hear it because it's just there's no oomph to it or anything. But really great, and if that's what they intended, it's fantastic. But either way, I loved it. That's assuming that ghosts exist and they don't. But anyway, back to the chorus, and that feral guitar in the left channel is now attempting to hit sort of peak theremin at this point. It's unbelievable, and then it drops out for a short while. I said in the reaction, I think it's been taken away by guys in white coats and a big comedy huge net off to a place called Sunnydale or something for reprogramming. Um, we get to enjoy the rhythm section with just that sort of buzzsaw groove of the right channel guitar, and it sounds great. It has something of the sort of early '90s alternative to it. It sounds glorious. I think I said in the reaction I was listening to Pod, the first Breeders album, just yesterday, and it has a bit of that in it, that just sort of groove. It's very simple, but it's just maddeningly satisfying. And then we get another surprise. In the left channel, seemingly replacing the Mad Aunt guitar, we get some horns. And they start off sort of almost like a Pink Floyd synthesizer, this slow, expansive notes coming spreading out, like drops of oil on water. And then you understand what it is because you get the throaty rasp of a saxophone. So yeah, this is what it is. And then back comes fucking mad left channel guitar. And at first, it's seemingly working in tandem with the horn section, like a reconditioned Alex after the uh, technique. But this is no Clockwork Orange, and it soon breaks out again. I think that's the reaction. It's like Jim Carrey, trying to act straight, and after a while, he just kind of have to start showing off and overacting and stuff. It just couldn't help itself, and it breaks out into some magnificent sonic ultraviolence. And the whole track sort of then peaks at this point and cresting like a cresting wave. Um, and then the sort of buzzing groove takes us through to the end. Yeah, it was super quick, sort of, was it 7 odd minutes? I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a sprawling, opaque, but really creative and interesting, right up my alley. I thought it was a wonderful sort of mini epic. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought you would when I gave it a listen myself. And yeah, I enjoyed it very much too. So great shout, Will. God, the guitars in the song were like enchanting in the weirdest way. Not like, I mean, you think enchanting, you think these like ethereal sounds. No, but they just like they sink their teeth into you. And they don't really let go. And yes, the development of the appearance of a horn or sax is like what the where I didn't
Yeah.
have that pegged for something that would occur. So yeah, interesting stuff. Really like the song too. But yeah, they are an English indie rock band formed in 1992 in Nottingham. The classic lineup of the band featured singer-guitarist Chris Awley, guitarist Sam Hempton, drummer Chris Davis, bassist Paul Douglas, and keyboard player James Flower. Originally formed in 1992 as Friends of, they performed their first show at the Old Angel Pub in their hometown of Nottingham in late 92. After recording several demos and playing gigs, the band attracted some record company interest. However, they once played to a room full of A&R men at Leicester's Charlotte, with the room emptying before the
Oh,
first 15-minute song was complete. Undeterred, the band continued to write and record. Please tell me the why the ooh on that.
because that is actually used to be called the Princess Charlotte. And I have been there on many occasions. I was definitely not there with a bunch of A&R men, I'll tell you that, but I've seen many a band there.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome, awesome, and intimate, sort of, pub venue. Really cool. I reckon you could squeeze 250 in absolute maximum.
Yeah.
Probably more like usually 100 is a decent size, crowd of those gigs.
Yeah.
Really sweaty. The all the walls are damp. Just
Mhm.
exactly what you want of a good night out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's funny though, a 15-minute song, and they didn't get halfway through it, and
Yeah,
people were
yeah.
like, "Yeah, this isn't fit for radio. We're out of here."
Not in the 90s. I mean, no
Yeah,
way.
exactly, exactly. So, bass player Paul Douglas would later join the band later that year, and the band got their break by playing support slots for with Rocket from the Crypt and Girls Against Boys, and changed their name to 6x7 in 1996. The name was taken from the research connected with the Hubble Space Telescope. Sam Hempton came up with the name and described it as follows. There was a big debate as to whether the millions of other galaxies in the universe were accelerating away from each other or moving away at a constant rate, or whether they were actually coming back in on themselves. The scientists originally thought that everything would eventually come back in on itself and implode, but what's actually happening is that they are accelerating away at a rate of 6x7. Interesting, nerdy stuff. Kind of dig that inspiration. I thought it was, they probably would be a more apropos name would be 6 or 7, as in minutes, because as it turns out, a lot of the tracks on their album were about 6 or 7 minutes long. In 1990s, in 1997, the band released their debut 12-inch single, European Me, which led to a 5-album deal. Their debut album, The Things We Make, was released the following year, after which they began headlining their own shows, as well as touring with Ash, Manic Street Preachers, the Dandy Warhols, and Placebo. In 1998, they were asked to play a live session on The John Peel Show and recorded 4 more sessions over the next 4 years. Their
Oh,
second album, The Closer You Get, was released in 2000. Sam Hempton left the band shortly thereafter. Douglas followed in 2002 after the release of their third album, The Way I Feel Today. In September of 2004, the fourth album, '04, like aptly named, was released along with a collection of outtakes from the recording sessions called Left Luggage at the Peveril Hotel, which was initially available through the band's website. In April 2005, a new album was announced for release entitled Artists, Cannibals, Poets, Thieves. It was described by 6x7. It was described as 6x7's first album as a three-piece. Shortly before the album's release in June, the band announced they were to stop touring and effectively end the group for the foreseeable future, with a live album and a B-sides and rarities collection to follow. In December of 2005, a new unofficial studio album, Club Sandwich at the Peveril Hotel. This reoccurring is the Peveril Hotel like historic or famous in any way? I've never heard of it.
never heard of it. But then I've never heard of them either. So what do I know?
That's a fair point, John. Uh, so yeah, that was released on the band's website on January 16th, 2006, with a limited number of copies making their way into stores in March. although there was mentioned and even scheduling of a series of live gigs for early 2006, the shows were eventually canceled. In August 2006, the band made a surprise appearance playing at the Social in Nottingham with a new lineup featuring past collaborators Tony Doggan Foster and Addie Fletcher, with Ian Bissett newly recruited on the drums. In September 2006, a collection of rarities, live tracks, and demo recordings was made available via the band's website. On December 12th, 2006, the band played another gig at the Social in Nottingham. Once again, this featured the lineup of Ollie, Flower, Doggan, Addie Fletcher, and Ian Bissett. In September 2007, it was officially announced via the band's website that 6x7 had reformed with their original lineup of Chris Ollie, Sam Hempton, James Flower, and Chris Davis. Pete Stevenson takes over Paul Douglas's role on bass. In July 2007, July 2007 saw the online release of a new album recorded solely by Ollie and Flower. It was entitled "If Symptoms Persist, Kill Your Doctor," and was limited to 1,000 copies only. Its lyrics are inspired by an episode of a BBC TV program called The Trap. Gigs were scheduled to coincide with the release. A best of, with songs chosen by fans on the official forum, was released later, including remixes and a DVD containing the band's promo videos. Oh, DVDs, I remember those. The band finally imploded after Chris Ollie left in November of 2008, but in August of 2012, Chris Ollie announced that he and James Flower reformed 6x7 and that they were recording new material with a former Placebo drummer, Steve Hewitt. A new album, Love and Peace and Sympathy, was released on July 8th of 2013. Their label re-released the band's second album on vinyl, including a bonus album of B-sides and Peel sessions. A greatest hits CD was also released. Following this, the band did 2 one-off shows with the original lineup at the Maze in Nottingham and the Garage in London. With another 6x7 show planned in October of 2017, Chris Ollie reformed and restructured the band. The band played the Glade stage at Glastonbury Festival in 2019. This track we listened to today, offered up by Will Hildebrand, was featured on the band's aforementioned debut album, The Things We Make. The album featured numerous epic tracks with Oh Dear, European Me, and 88, 92, 96, all clocking in at almost 7 minutes or just over, and Spy Song reaching almost 9 minutes. Aside from European Me, I just think it's funny because they were like, all right, guys, you remember the deal with the A&R guys at the Charlotte. 15 minutes is too long. Let's rein it into a good 9. Even that would, tempt the record labels and the radio. I mean, it worked apparently, but it's just funny that
a punchy little 9.
yeah, exactly. A little in and out with an 8-minute track. But yeah. Aside from European Me, 88, 92, 96, Candlelight, and For You were released as singles, with Candlelight reaching the lower regions of the singles charts. The album was ranked 13th in NME's end-of-year poll for 1998. And over at NME, European Me was described as one of the greatest debut singles of all time, which is very interesting and good because it's not Pitchfork. Now let's jump into these lyrics. It's good to be someone. It's good to be someone. To feel like you belong. Change your life today. Change your world as well. It's better than it sounds. European Me. It's good to be someone. Sanitize your mind. Leave the past behind. Wallow in your pride. Drive the tumbril mile. Your friends, they are not mine. They hold me down. They hold me. Down where you belong. European Me. It's good to be someone. Which, an incredible amount of brevity in the lyrics, can you consider the runtime of the track. But yeah, I couldn't find anything on the meeting, but I sort of got the idea as well of this like self-acceptance from the track, and it sounds like that's sort of where you or what you inferred as well from this one
Yeah.
listen?
Yeah, kind of a search for identity, or maybe assuming it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty opaque, but
it is. It is, which is awesome because it leaves room
yeah.
for it to resonate with different people for different reasons. So yeah, really good stuff. Will,
The,
this was a
the,
really
sorry, just to
sorry, go
say
ahead.
very quickly, the line "It's good to be someone" sounds like a line from again from like a 1960s song or something. It's a bit sort of bouncy and uplifting. It's good to be somebody. You can
Yeah,
imagine something like that. But
yeah.
this sounds a bit more sinister in this context. It's good to be someone.
I
Um,
think you're right, and I didn't even your initial angle I hadn't even thought of, because to me this sounded so much more like saying it's great not to be a nobody, and to find yourself, or to find your be to be someone is to be yourself, but to be yourself you must find yourself, and you have to, and to find yourself along the way you need to define yourself. So it's a lot of all of that coming into the mix,
yeah,
and I think there is a reason why that is the one line. I mean, pardon me, I think European Me might be repeated twice, but it's good to be someone, it's good to be someone, it's good to be someone, it's good to be someone. That's four times that this is mentioned in the song, at least,
in a small
which
amount of lyrics.
is a
Yeah,
very small amount. So it's clearly the line that they want to resonate with you the most, or it's the statement that they pondered the most when being inspired to write this song. So yeah, interesting stuff. And as you said, it's opaque and it's kind of amorphous, so it can be interpreted and ingested in different
yeah,
ways,
yeah,
mean different things to different people. I was going to say, Will, this is a really, really cool song,
yeah,
really
yeah.
interesting. Listen, I it's no surprise to me that I hadn't heard this before. I'm really glad that I had. I listened to this thing, and I got to say, John, I know I mentioned this to you off camera, but I think it was this is the most John song we've had recommended to us, or one of them, and it really is interesting and kind of fun for me to have John experience this song for the first time, because I knew when I heard it he would dig it. So great shout, Will. Had a lot of fun with this
Yeah,
one. Yeah,
big
I'm sure.
time.
Yeah, you did too, John. Also, John, I'll go ahead and say this since you had mentioned it to me before, but John gleefully showed me a screenshot on his camera that on his phone that this has actually been ordered and secured on vinyl, so it will be heading to the collection behind John. So he was clearly a
Oh,
big
well, I
fan
was
too.
impressed. Yeah, I managed to get a decent copy, fairly cheap, of the 12-inch of this. So yeah, it'll be in
Yeah,
the frame in an episode coming soon.
awesome. That is awesome. So, Will, thank you so much for giving this a shout, and John, thank you so much for giving a listen. Really
Yeah,
do
my pleasure.
appreciate it. Guys out there in the listening audience, let us know what you thought of this very interesting track by 6x7. If it resonated with you as much as it did with John and I, I'd love to hear what your input is. Also, any comps or anything like that, feel free to drop it down in the comments field. Also, it's a Friday episode. If you too would like to hear one of a song that resonates with you on the channel, please feel free to drop it down in there, and we will add it to the ever-growing list. Also, one last thing, please like, share, and or subscribe if you have not done any or all of those things. It really does help us here at the channel, and we really, really do appreciate it. So thank you so much, and hopefully John and I will catch you all on future episodes of the audio files. So thank you, and be well. See you later, guys.